Hello everyone and welcome to The Public Space. Tonight we are speaking with Jason Bartlett, who is on a very special traveling plan here. He is working for bringing attention to the situation of the South African Boers, a population of white people in South Africa being the victim of crimes, of oppression. So we're going to talk about this to him. How are you doing, Jason?
Very well, thanks to yourself. So thank you for having me, and thank you for helping us spread the awareness of our crisis and genocide in South Africa.
All right. So you have started from Austin, Texas, and you are walking all the way through the White House in Washington, D.C., a path of more than 1,500 miles. And where are you at right now?
I am currently in Nacogdoches, which is the oldest town in Texas. I've traveled approximately 197 miles in total, and it's been a long walk. I've got the blisters to show it, and it's been great. I've had some great southern hospitality, and the weather has been absolutely terrific. It's not as cold as it's going to be in the near future.
All right. So can you tell us what is your contact with South Africa? Have you been living there all your life? And right now, why are you in the U.S.?
So I am from South Africa. I was born and raised in South Africa, and this is actually the longest period of time that I haven't been home. I normally go home once every year. However, I am now seeking asylum in the United States due to the horrific violence that I've experienced and that my people are experiencing on a daily basis. There are extreme amounts of murder, and the government stands up and sings songs of how to kill the white people, and they have now implemented a thing called expropriation without compensation, where they see white people have land, they will take it and give them no money for the land.
So your population is getting targeted with a form of racial hate and racial appropriation strategy by the government. And it includes also murders on which that may be operated, from my understanding, by third parties or people who are not necessarily linked to the government, but on which the government is turning its eyes away, not looking at it, not stopping it. Is it the case that your population is going through a higher rate of murder?
Yes, due to the fact that we are the minority, the rate that we are being murdered at is extremely alarming. And many of our people, if you take a look at last year alone, there was 473 attacks and there were 50 murders. Now, these aren't just normal murders. This is when they chop up babies. They're murdering and raping the men and women. They behead them. They burn Bibles on them. They pull their toenails out, their fingernails out. They drill them in the heads and they torture them for hours and hours on end.
All right, so this is happening right now. And is your work aimed at demanding something from the government of the U.S.? What would be the best situation? What can we do?
Well, the first immediate thing that we need is an immediate protection plan, because these attacks are happening on a daily basis. For the last 25 years, there have been approximately 2 attacks every day and 1 murder every week for the last 25 years, if you divide it up. And we need an immediate action plan, as well as we need our asylum cases to be expedited in America and the world, because we have nowhere to go. We are stuck there, and the people are killing us, and they just continue to kill us, and it's getting worse every single day.
All right. As a reminder to our crowd, if you have questions for me or for our guest Jason, come on Entropy, my favorite platform for super chat, if you want to send your questions tonight. And our survey tonight is, do you believe something can be done to save the Boers? Am I understanding from what you're telling us that you see the future of the Boer people outside of South Africa? You don't see a solution internally?
There's going to be a very difficult situation if you want to make it internally in South Africa. But I do understand, and I support the people that will want to stay, because it is their country and it is their land. And they should not be murdered and killed. They should be able to live there, because if they do get forced to leave, then Africa is going to continue to starve and it's going to get very, very bad. And then the entire world's going to sit with an immigration problem. So it's best to support the farmers and help the farmers in the country as well for the ones that want to stay there.
All right. I saw that you were sending updates on your Twitter account of your walk. What have you been seeing up to now in your walk? Have you been talking to people? What does it look like? Do you talk to people on the street?
Yes, I have. I've stopped at several. I stop at most of the farms and I talk to people when I get a chance. I do almost every interview that people can contact me via my website, and I will do an interview with them because I'm here to spread the word. I've received a lot of people stopping me and just saying prayers with me, as well as giving me more information and asking what I'm doing. And to each and every person, I'm telling the stories. And a lot of people on the ground actually know what's happening, and they just understand that the leftist media is covering it up for specific reasons because they want America and many other countries to end up social and with socialism and communism, just like South Africa is at the moment.
Absolutely. So no words from CNN. They are often interested in racial hate. They should want to cover this, right?
No, I haven't heard anything from them because they're part of the problem. Because I would happily go onto CNN and express this because this is not trying to invoke racism. I'm actually coming in peace. And I'm asking you guys on the left always talk about helping the minorities. Here's a minority that's physically being persecuted. Please help us.
All right. So I heard that you had a message for Donald Trump. I saw that you were tweeting to him. So what do you want Donald Trump to understand, if there's one thing you can tell him?
I'm very sure that Donald Trump does already know a lot of what's happening in South Africa. However, I do know that he is draining the swamps because there is people around him that would also tell him that it's a myth and that it's wrong. But I would like to go and speak to Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and just inform him that we are in a dire crisis and we need to stop the 500 million US dollars that America sends to South Africa that is fueling a genocide, because it doesn't get to the poor black people of Africa. It goes straight into the 0.02% of the tyrants like Cyril Ramaphosa and his people that are leading the country into dismal heights that we've never seen before. They're running out of electricity, yet that they live luxurious lives with offshore accounts full of American taxpayer money.
Okay, lots of corruption. Now, is there a history of success with these claims for asylum? Because my impression is that the asylum system must not be super sympathetic to white people being oppressed in other nations.
In my personal opinion, it does look like that. It looks like as soon as you go in with the asylum officers, they look at you and they think that, oh, well, why would you seek asylum? You've got white privilege. But I can tell you very much so that being murdered on a daily basis and raped on a daily basis is not privilege of being white. And in South Africa, when a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old little black boy or girl looks at you and shows you that they want your throat slit, that doesn't make you feel welcome, and it doesn't make you feel at home, because the hate is brewing more and more and more. And we do need our asylum cases to be expedited immediately.
So even young children are educated in this hate of white people there?
Completely. They've been taught that the hate is growing way faster than the unity in South Africa, because you've got people like Julius Malema from the Economic Freedom Fighters, which is the third biggest political party with 10% say in the parliament, where he stands up and he says, we're going to slit the throat of whiteness and we are going to kill the Boer and shoot the white people, and we will take their land when we want it.
All right, very worrying sentences here. Of course, we are here to denunciate the hate and to fight against it. All right, so people can support your work at your website, and they can follow your adventure to the White House on Twitter. Do you have, perhaps for people who don't know who the Boers are, can you tell us a little bit about what is this people? What does it mean to you to be one of them?
To be a Boer is founded on the Christian principles. First of all, the whole nation of the Boer, when they tried to leave under the colonialism of England, they went on a big, what we call the Groot Trek, and they moved up into the unknown countries where there was very little water, and they started to become farmers, hence the name Boers. And these Boers became extremely skilled in weaponry, actually shooting, because they had to fight off these evil tribes so many times, as well as wild animals, as you can imagine Africa has. And these Boers became extremely well-planned and well-developed farmers, and also passionate about living free. Hence, they created what they call the Vrystaat, which is the free state. And they wanted to break away from the English colonialism. And they were so good and dedicated that they were actually the only and the first people to ever beat the British in a war in the 19th century. It was the first time the English lost, and they lost to the Boer. The English actually put the women and children into concentration camps. And that's the short history of the Boers. They live in South Africa. They've been there. They've got their own language called Afrikaans, which I, of course, speak. And they are beautiful people. It's a hard and tough people, but they are godly people with a beautiful nation and a beautiful history. And they have been dehumanized on a constant state, and the people are persecuting them.
All right. We have a question from the crowd. Martin Madrigal says, what are your thoughts on the Swedelanders? The Swedelanders is a group in South Africa. We've had one of them, their leader, here on the show. What do you think about them?
I'm not involved with any organizations. I stand for God and God alone. So I don't really have much information about the Swedelanders. They have their own party, so they can speak for themselves. I don't have any answers on that one.
Yeah, my understanding is that they were much more into the stay in South Africa and find ways to survive. I think much more like you, to be honest, that running is probably the best option at this point, because it's going to be a slow process of hate building up over decades. It's like nothing will be done. There will be no authorities to collaborate with because the authorities will be on the side of the hostile forces. So I think that I side with you here just on a factual basis in terms of the hope of people surviving there is very low, and I think that much hope could be given if countries like Russia, like the US, like Europe could welcome you.
Yes, we would be a great addition to any country because we are such good farmers, and even the people that aren't farmers, they are also being persecuted. They will also be able to just add to the country anywhere that they go. They would only add to the essence and be law-abiding citizens. But as I say, I completely support the people that want to stay in South Africa. My family is still there. I don't think it's right that anybody gets chased out of their country, especially in the year 2020. But there is a genocide happening there, and it needs to be put to end. And that's why I'm going to the likes of President Donald Trump, because I believe that he is a bold enough president to actually interfere and intervene and stop this genocide.
Very interesting. So what do you plan to do once you arrive at Washington, D.C.? Will you be knocking on doors, speaking to politicians?
Well, we are handling it very professionally. I do have a team of lawyers and agents that are working with me and setting up a professional appointment with the president, as well as I have been speaking to several people of position and power. And they're noticing that I'm coming in complete peace. I'm not walking in title. I'm coming with a solution. I do have a business plan that I will lay in front of the president as well. And I will present it to him because I know the type of human being he is. He is a businessman. And we want to keep this country great that we are in. I love America myself. I've been coming to and from legally and properly with visas since 2006. And this is the type of country that I want to reside in, and I want to keep it great.
Absolutely. And if we're going to have immigration per year the way we do, why not leave some place for bringing in the Boer population? I mean, everything is to win here. We're going to have a quality population, low criminality, relatively good standing and education. And so there's really nothing to be lost here. We can continue the current immigration program for what they were really designed for, which is to save quality people from situations that they can't resolve at home.
Exactly. That's extremely well said. That's what we come. We come in harmony, and we come to build a nation, and we come to help mend a nation that is currently being trying to change to socialism and communism. We don't support that. We've lived through it. I have lived through it. Nobody in Canada or America or anywhere in the world wants to live in a socialist or communist world. I can promise you that it's hateful and it's harmful and it's dangerous.
All right, Nicholas Petrus says, you are epic, bro. Jason, this is going to be it for our interview. I'm going to be covering some news solo tonight, but is there a last message for our crowd that you'd like to give?
My last message is just please go onto my Twitter, onto my Facebook, onto my website, show support. You know, you can donate if you want, if you can. Otherwise, just give me your prayers and just give me your voices, and let's walk more to the White House together, and let's help save an entire nation.
Absolutely. Your links are in the description below and in the chat. Thank you so much for coming, Jason. And I truly hope that you succeed both at the personal level for your asylum application, but also to open up a path for South African Boers who can find a place to live. It is a very dramatic situation, and we can stop it before it becomes worse.
Thank you very much. So I appreciate your great time and your efforts. Thank you.
Bye-bye, and good luck with your travel.
Bye-bye. Thank you, sir.
All right. What a great guy. Hopefully he can get the attention of the president and can make a way for people like him, because we know from the last interview we've done, it is millions of white people currently in South Africa being subjected to this hateful regime, and hopefully we will find a situation. I mean, I can't believe that we've not dealt with this already, because asylum processes are designed exactly for that kind of situation. Yet asylum processes are being misused for other situations, for economic migrants. And yet we have this program all designed exactly for this purpose. And all we need to do is to get our administration to flash a little bit, these bureaucrats in the immigration system, and say, oh yeah, white people can be oppressed too. That is pretty much what we've been working on for more than a year now, and there doesn't seem to be major movement. If Donald Trump could just come out on the public space, not this show, but the public space, and say, look, we're going to be a solution for the Boers of South Africa. You're all welcome. For every Boer that comes in, we're just going to cut the immigration from other countries because we're giving it a priority. We want to resolve this situation. And in the end, we're going to end up with quality migrants, which I'm not a man to promote migration, but in this situation of emergency and in face of the accomplished fact of immigration and the fact that it seems that we're going to keep bringing migrants in, why not bring migrants who are people who seem to be of quality and who will be bringing positive contributions to our nation. James O'Keefe has been publishing this video, Breaking Bernie Sanders' Free Education Policies to Teach You How to Not Be a Nazi. There is a reason Stalin had gulags. Expect violent reactions for speech. If Bernie doesn't get nomination, Milwaukee will burn. So those are things that were said by an agent, Kyle Jurek, who is a field organizer for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Project Veritas did what they usually do, which is to do a hidden camera, and they do an investigation, and they caught this staffer of Bernie Sanders, who seems to be essentially a revolutionary communist. And so we can hear him call for violence, say that the Nazis need to be re-educated and denazified, and in fact even calling for the murder of right-wing people. Of course, shocking words, and I don't know what will happen with this, because it's not like Bernie has been caught himself doing anything wrong. but it shows the kind of forces that are highly supportive of Bernie. This is the Bernie Sanders machine. It is filled with revolutionary socialists and revolutionary communists. So I think it's a great job by James O'Keefe. Now, what will happen tonight is the Democratic debate. I believe it's starting in about 40 minutes. So what will happen is Bernie Sanders going to disavow this guy and say, we do not tolerate people who make violent comments in our campaign. I think it's very likely what will happen. I don't see Bernie being attached to this guy in any way. And in politics, generally, when you get caught like this, you accept to be the mole, to be whacked. And I think that Kyle Jurek will simply get whacked out of the Bernie campaign, and that will be it. I don't expect this to play a very important role inside the Democratic Party, because I think that the Democratic Party will be the alternate candidates like Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren. They won't want to pull this out too much and put it in the face of Bernie Sanders, because in the end, it is leftist calling for violence, and it is therefore their own side. And I don't think that they will feel like it's a good argument to say, look, Bernie, you attract violent people. The fact is they all attract revolutionary communists, except perhaps Joe Biden. But it's interesting as a release in the context of the Democrat race right now, where Bernie Sanders is rising, and we can see all eyes turning toward Bernie Sanders. In fact, we've seen an attack planned by Elizabeth Warren. Of course, she will say, I didn't really do this attack. What happened is that a few years ago, Elizabeth Warren had a deal with Bernie Sanders where they had dealt that if they ever end up being competitors for a title, like the Democrat candidacy for president, they would not attack each other. And Bernie has been following this pretty well. He held his part of the deal. Now, what happened yesterday is that Elizabeth Warren started releasing using leakers, so not herself, not as if she was not acting, but she essentially made sure that other people came to the media and said, look, we've been in a meeting years ago with Bernie Sanders, and he said that he didn't believe a woman can win. And there were like two people present, and then two other people who were not present, but who had heard of the conversation. And this led to coverage in the mainstream media. Bernie Sanders once said that women cannot win the presidency. And Elizabeth Warren, coming after all this, comes and says, it's true, I was there and it did happen. As if she was not the one behind all these leaks. Of course, it is extremely likely that she just decided to betray her promise to Bernie Sanders. She decided, okay, we gotta go on the attack on Bernie. And Bernie looks clean in all of this, and that he's getting attacked for hearsay, or he's getting essentially told that years ago he would have said that comment, but everyone knows Bernie and everyone understands what's very likely happening is that this old conversation was a conversation in which Bernie may have expressed not so much that women can't win, but that there are difficulties and that he wishes women could win. I don't think that Bernie Sanders is just a sexist, like they were originally trying to seed the idea. I think that what happened is that he said something about the difficulty of women running for presidency, which is factual and which is a concern from a strategic perspective. And they decided to smear him by saying, oh, he doesn't believe women can win. we're going to see how it plays out tonight in the debate that will happen tonight. What will Bernie do here? He essentially has the moral high ground in that he is not the one who dropped the gloves. He's the one who rose and who got first position in certain surveys and certain states, certain key states for the beginning of the race. He remained the cleanest in all of this because here is Elizabeth Warren trying to get to him. And Elizabeth Warren should be careful here. Because Elizabeth Warren has value to the extent that she can project this grandmother loving image. When Elizabeth Warren gets dirty, she will lose value. And so it's going to be very important what happens tonight. I don't think we will review the debate live due to copyright concerns, but perhaps we can do that tomorrow. And I can select certain clips that will be relevant. But it's extremely important what's going to happen tonight because it's going to be the clash between, is Elizabeth Warren going on the offensive? Is she going to call out Bernie Sanders for sexism when in fact she had promised they would not attack each other? And Bernie Sanders is the only one who held his promise. And TikTok says, high ground? No, you're delusional. Let me tell you this, in the long run, I know that this whole thing is essentially about, is Bernie Sanders a sexist? And you may think, oh, it's going to be negative for Bernie. In the long run, and by long run, I mean in more than a week, I mean in the medium term, average term, or long term, Bernie will probably be seen as the one who didn't go in the sewers with the others. When they go low, we go high, and I think he's going to be scoring on this. Yepi says, will Tulsi be there? No, Tulsi and Andrew Yang will not be present in this debate. So it's going to be Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and then a couple of other candidates, including Steyer. What the fuck is Steyer doing there? All right. Cardi B. Cardi B is tweeting about our friends. And I love this timeline. I am Cardi B, verified rapper. Cardi B, I'm not sure who she is. I don't know much about her. Wasn't she an sex worker who ended up a rap star of some kind? Anyways, she is criticizing our friend Mindy Robinson, who came on the show earlier. Sis, your lips is ashy and you barely have none. Leave me alone. I didn't insulted your party and you believes, so please don't try me and let's keep sweet, okay? Don't want to dog walk you, heart. So she's criticizing Mindy for her lips. That's because Mindy said that I am Cardi B was saying I should be president. All I need is a couple of years of school. And Mindy Robinson said, you may need a little more than a couple of years of school. Your tweets are full of grammar error. And now they are in a cat fight on Twitter. They keep retweeting about each other. I cannot believe that we live in a world in which I interview someone and they are engaged in a cat fight with Cardi B. How did we end up here? I love it. I just love it. Oh, we have to be grateful for the world of communication and interconnectivity we live in. Honk Live says, Trump does not care about his own supporters being attacked. Why would he care about the Boers in South Africa? The political cost of doing so would also destroy him. No incentive. It might be a problem, the lack of like direct measurable incentive, but Trump, sometimes pursues great ideas, and sometimes I think that he could be just dedicating his effort to something, not with the hope that it pays back, but with the hope that it's the right thing to do. Call me naive, but I think it's still possible. Question Everything says, Jeff, talk about Bitcoin. Okay, well, Bitcoin has been performing very well. It's now at 8,900. It is popping out. It is the rise that I had predicted. So we're still in it. Now, it's not going to be a perfect rise to 100,000, but essentially having bought Bitcoin around 8,000, as I saw someone, I know that someone on Twitter bought exactly at the right moment, because he said, Jeff, is that the right time to invest $8,000 on Bitcoin? And back then I had told him, wait for it to drop at around this price. And this price was essentially the bottom. And so I know that this guy has bought exactly at the right time, and it is a good time to have Bitcoins. Now, it's not going to be a perfect ride. There are going to be waves, but we are definitely in an increasing pattern at this point, and it's going to be the case until so much people are invested in leverage longs that the market makers decide to crash the price. So the natural price direction for Bitcoin is toward $100,000, but if too much people are amassed in leverage loans, the leverage investments, they will crash it down a little bit. So what I expect is a roller coaster, but a roller coaster that tends toward definitely the increasing direction. Medad says, why do genes want to replicate? In the primordial soup, why was there a convergence to stable molecules, and why/how did they want to replicate? In the rare event these molecules formed, shouldn't they have just disintegrated, let alone begin to replicate? The answer is, first, we call them genes. We call them genes because they replicate. So asking, why do genes want to replicate is like asking, why do cars want to advance forward? It's just that if they didn't have the ability to roll in a certain direction, we wouldn't call them cars. And so we wouldn't call them genes if they didn't have the ability to replicate. Moon Mutation says you'll never hit 100K. Fight me, bro. Fight me, bro. Do you even lift, bro? Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong. So as far as genes, you have to tell yourself, well, okay, it's a semantic category. Genes are whatever replicates. And so the molecules that turn out to replicate, we call them genes. Now, you're saying, shouldn't they have disintegrated? Well, some of them most likely disintegrated without reaching the point where they were viable enough to make decent. So most molecules get disintegrated. Most shapes in nature get disintegrated. And it's probably true of living molecules. Stuff like DNA form. If you had amino acids and nucleotides floating around, they probably formed chains and then disintegrated, and none of them were finding really the way to replicate. That being said, at one point, one of them was able to replicate, and that's the beauty of the theory of evolution. It's that once you have one example that's capable of replication, it will be subjected to evolution and it will leave decent. So we're looking at it from a biased perspective to think, well, DNA replicates. Well, it's just that the DNA we see today and the one from which we see the biggest manifestations, which are the human bodies and elephants and giraffes and the plants, this DNA replicates, but there were other DNA strands back in the primordial soup, and they probably didn't replicate, and there were other assemblies of amino acids, and they probably never became alive. That is my answer. Let's see what the answers of the crowd are. Do you believe something can be done to save the Boers? 5 people say no, 2 people say yes. I do agree. I agree that saving them on site will be hard. I see the best thing we could do would be to move them or to offer them an opportunity to survive elsewhere. Serge Vladimir says, Jeff, hello, do you have any thoughts on Richard's recent appearance with Alex Jones? Yes, it was quite funny to see Richard Spencer on InfoWars. I should go on InfoWars. I'm sure that Alex Jones would love to hear about the fact that I predict that we will eventually get modified genetically by machines in a way that will be detrimental to who we are. This is a theme that Alex Jones has been alarmed about even before I came out with my book. And so he should definitely invite me, but it was great to see our friend Richard there. The case that Richard made there was a classic case for identity, and we've seen that Alex Jones has been quite touched by this case because he's essentially adopted identitarian language since then. We've seen Alex Jones the day after the interview with Spencer talking about how, you know, that they're not going to change who we are, they're not going to impose anything on us, and he was talking of his pride and being white. It was, I think that Richard Spencer had a positive influence on Alex Jones. Also, one aspect that was hilarious in the interview is that Alex Jones made a comparison between MSNBC and Hitler, and Richard Spencer said, I think you're exaggerating here. It was quite funny to see Richard Spencer saying to Alex Jones, I think you're going too far here. Very interesting interview. Other than this, it was essentially Richard Spencer laying out the importance of an identity-based politics, and essentially Alex Jones mostly agreeing. This is part of the change that happened to Alex Jones in the last few years. Alex Jones saw what happened in 2016 and the rise of identitarianism, and he wanted a piece of it. And he's been not super intelligent about it, and in the process of wanting to be at that level of edginess, went too far, and that's partly why he's banned from various platforms. He wasn't careful with the subject enough, but clearly we can see a change in the production of Alex Jones in the 2017-2018, where some of the staffers that he was bringing in were young people that were familiar with blood sports. I remember one of his hosts talking about blood sports, and he was talking to, I don't remember even who he was interviewing, but he was like, yeah, you guys on the blood sports are doing pretty edgy stuff. And back then, InfoWars had been banned from YouTube, so they were like, how do you survive while talking about such controversial subjects? And clearly there is something that channels like mine have understood that Alex Jones didn't understand about how to phrase stuff, how to approach these questions. And that is why ultimately Alex Jones paid the price of the censorship. Of course, it's not just that, it's the fact that there were lots of eyes on him and less eyes on shows like mine. But that is what's happening. Alex Jones has converted from being full on just conspiratorial, schizophrenic thinking into more identity-based politics and Trumpism. Press TV UK's YouTube taken down as part of anti-Iran US pressure campaign. So it's supporting Iran has been made illegal essentially by the US. The US is saying we will charge sanctions on companies that are negotiating or doing stuff with Iran. But that includes pro-Iran YouTube videos. So at this point, we have directly an intervention of the US state, the federal government, in matters of speech. I hope it's not that we need a defense of Iran on YouTube. I personally don't give a shit. But I don't like what's happening from a purely free speech perspective. The fact that you have a federal government impeding on matters of free speech, on matters of journalism, in complete violation of the First Amendment. So what I hope is that there will be a pushback at some point, and that it will be concluded in courts that the economic sanctions can be given on other governments and other entities, but not on a company based in the US that essentially offers the service of free speech to journalists and stuff like this. So unfortunately, a YouTube channel taken down in the UK due to the Iranian sanctions enacted by the US. Now, YouTube is a American company, cannot do business with collaborators of Iran. As it turns out, these journalists had a rather balanced view or a pro-Iranian view. I don't know them. But it was judged so pro-Iranian that it would lead to a trigger of the economic US sanctions. T. Torchon says, "Rap this." The thing is, there are bad words in there. So if I remove your word there, I can say, Lil, you can't fuck with me. If you wanted to, these extensive, these ain't bread tubes. These is IQs. JF, you just did Cardi B. I don't think I did. I don't know that type of rap. I don't know how it's supposed to be done with a rhythm. Say, lil bitch, you can fuck with me. If you wanted to, these extensive, these ain't bread tubes. These is IIQs. It's poorly written. I think you're gonna have to ensure that Cardi B herself goes to sing it. Vince Vaughn faces backlash after shaking Trump's hand at football game. Wedding Crashers actor previously described himself as politically libertarian. So people are trying to cancel this guy, who's an actor who's always said he was conservative, he was right-wing, he was libertarian. So it's not surprising that he shakes the hand of Trump. He's happy with the Trump performance, and really trying to cancel him is not very useful. Jailbreak. House Democrats call to release all transgender ICE detainees. Titles the Daily Wire. Political observers in the year 2020 know that for the Democratic Party and the broader political left alike, intersectionality often reigns supreme. For those still wondering whether... are there any facts in this fucking article? Okay, we have to get to the 7th paragraph before we get to a fact. Per The Hill, the letter reads, and it's a letter that will be sent to the acting Department of Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf and acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Matthew Albans. We write to demand the release of all transgender people currently detained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Transgender migrants and asylum seekers are particularly vulnerable to sexual harassment, solitary confinement, physical assault, and medical neglect. These inhuman conditions and systematic abuses are evidenced in countless reports and accounts by formerly detained people. Well, I'm not against releasing them, but where? Will we be releasing them in Mexico or in the US? I'd like to know more before I take a stance. Dave Voce says, what are your thoughts on the Sargon/rationality rules, not fallacy? We talked about this actually in the private show yesterday. So for those of you who are Mythical Moose members of our YouTube channel or Patreon or Subscribestar or New Project 2, you have seen my view on this, but I'm happy to do it publicly also. I think that rationality rules, conception that Sargon is just attacking the nuts, attacking the crazy people on the left and not addressing the best arguments on the left is false, and that rationality rules will ridicule himself in a debate if he tries to pull this against Sargon. I think that Sargon has some mileage now in debating skills. The thing is, Sargon has been having some success in terms of his YouTube channel with This Week in Stupid. Yes, bringing nuts, mental cases to his channel and showing the ridicule in their behavior. That doesn't mean that Sargon is unable to address a fully made, fully formed, reasonable left-wing position. In fact, we've seen him argue about co-ops, about socialist worker systems with Vaush, and so he's addressing the points that are rational when they come to him and when they are relevant. And it's a very bad point to enter a debate with this new fallacy by rationality rules. It's a weak one. Because anyone who comes and says, Jeff, you don't cover the right thing, you don't cover this well, you should cover this more. My answer will be, okay, let's cover it. What are your ideas, rationality rules about a good left-wing society? What does it look like? Let's talk about your policies. This is what Sargon will do. Essentially, rationality rules, not fallacy, will be eliminated and will be sprinkled into dust the minute Sargon says, okay, you don't want me to attack the nuts? Well, here you are in front of me and you're not a nut, right? So tell me, make a case for socialism, rationality rules. And at this point, he's going to look very stupid if he doesn't have an actual pillar to counter with. So I'm seeing the poor rationality rules is a man of high intelligence, but of low street credibility, low blood sports potential, and I'm afraid that he will be paying the price of his lack of training in this area. This is my commenting on this issue. All right, Expose 2020. Of course, we have the various statements of the Bernie Sanders campaign organizer, Kyle Jurek. He's talking about fascist and he's justifying violence against right-wingers and supporters of Trump. I think it's likely that he's going to get fired. He also said that gulags weren't that bad. Sanders staffer says Trump supporters will need to be re-educated in camps. Stephen King, savaged by woke mob for saying that art should be judged on quality, not diversity. How dare he? Stephen King has been making the rounds because he was discussing how, as a writer, he is able to nominate people for the trophy stuff that they're doing for the movies, and he can nominate in Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Original Screenplay. And he says, for me, the diversity issue, as it applies to individual actors and directors anyway, did not come up. That said, I would never consider diversity in matters of art, only quality. It seems to me that to do otherwise would be wrong. I think it's great. It's great that he has this consciousness about it, but what's sad is that we are not applying this everywhere. We are not shaping our society in the business sector, in the bakery sector, to be based on people's merit. Instead, what we are doing is we are having diversity quotas. We are forcing businesses to use certain amounts of diversity in their ads, and so we're essentially doing in the ad marketing and real estate and business domains, we're doing things that Stephen King says he wouldn't do with art. The problem is he's right about art, but he's right about the rest of society also. It would be awesome to be in a society where we don't care about these factors, where if we're interested in a best movie, we're looking for just the best movie by the quality of the movie. But we're looking for the best fireman also, and we're looking for the best car salesman also. It was shocking to the leftists to read this, but it is still a desirable state of society to be meritocratic and to be really oriented around merit rather than around a social justice agenda that seeks to equalize people by conceptions of sex or race or other attributes. All right, this man spent 23 days stranded in the Alaskan wilderness before rescuers found his SOS sign in the snow. Look at this. There he is. He has a fire. This guy has been spending 23 days. What led the policeman to go in helicopter in this area was that his friends said, look, we haven't seen him for a couple of days. Maybe we should check around. Turns out he was stuck in a valley and he had made an SOS sign in the snow. There he is. It seems that he had crashed with his little, with some material, and so he was there surviving with fire. 23 days, he is 30 years old. Tyson Steele has been saved. People are saying, Mighty Whitey says, wow, I would have died. Dude, don't die. You need to be prepared. If you go in the wilderness, you need to be prepared. You need to know which vegetables of the forest you can eat. Is that fish on a waffle? Man, fuck you. Well, I will say, personally, I've been living in the south of the US, and I know that there is such a thing as chicken and waffle. I have been tasting and eating chicken and waffle. Now, I don't know, perhaps that is fish. It does seem like it's a fillet of sole. But There is a way you can combine meat with waffles. That is my point. And it is generally with breaded meat and generally with chicken. It is absolutely delicious with hot sauce, maple syrup. Try it if you want to live the Southern life. Vince Vaughn is cancelled, or is he? On the post-millennial, of course, again, the story of this actor going to talk to Trump and not appearing to be complaining against him or anything. He seems to be saying, "Hello, Trump. I highly respect your work as a president. Good job, and if you want me to say a good word for you, as an actor, I will." Well, it doesn't seem like this will be bothering him, that the left is complaining against him. There is a story on the Sargon of Akkad Daily on this woman, Nandini Jami, who has gotten Stefan Molyneux censored from what? Censored from the MailChimp newsletter, which is a newsletter system that works on this. Let me take you through here. Before there was YouTube and before we were streaming and communicating with each other through super chats, there was something called emails, which existed, which allowed people to receive updates about the stuff they like, and it even allowed people to write to each other. Stefan Molyneux has been denunciated by this woman to this MailChimp thing. So here's what happened. This woman comes in and says, "Speaking of which, hey, MailChimp, did you know you power white nationalist Stefan Molyneux's email newsletter? Molyneux promotes eugenics, race science, and men's rights activism." Men's rights activism. Can you look into this, please? And MailChimp, within 5 hours, they say, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We've terminated this account." And as Sargon of Akkad is pointing out, we now have censorship based just on the allegation. There is not even the time for some sort of investigation. Is he truly what you claim he is? No, he is just promoting eugenics and race science. The thing is, Stefan Molyneux is not promoting eugenics as far as I know. Race science, what do you want? What is wrong with race science? Don't you want the science? No, you just don't want to know? You don't want the knowledge? And then men's rights activism. Are you kidding me? Men's right, she puts it in quotation mark. So, you don't like men's rights? It's a problem? Of course, Sargon of Akkad has already been pointing how ridiculous this was. But that's just the level we've reached. Now, this woman, Nandini Jami, seems to be a specialist of brand safety advocate. There's more and more of these people on the internet, and I want the young people listening to this show to know that there was a time where there was not a freaking brand safety manager on the internet. Back in these days, you just had to use any protocol you wanted on the internet to communicate any information, and no one would come to dump a a campaign against you, or to pull a hashtag on your ass and get you fired or something. It was the good old days of the internet. Back in the days, you could do anything. But very soon, we had this wave of brand safety specialists being hired, draining the money from all these big companies that had been established and raised by super coders, you know. Umflove says chicken and waffle, now that's hot stuff. Yes, definitely. Chicken and waffle is hot stuff. Syria says Israeli aircraft strike base thought used by Iranian forces. Just wanted to show you this. It's not a major news because no one was killed by the strike, but it just shows that when Trump does something like he did for Iran, there is always Israel in the background, always taking actions in their interest and always using the opportunity to get to their enemies and to disable other military facilities. And here they use the opportunity to strike Syria. Bias toward truth says, please wrap this. I'll sever the tether, whatever the weather. Level your fucking temple like Nipach. Stacking up the cheese from cheddar to feta. Dude, it's not super interesting, your rap request, okay? I'm willing to do it because you're paying. But I'm starting to get annoyed at your fucking rap, okay? Try to come up with something better. Try to come up with better lyrics. That's my point. It's not that I can't rap. It's that I need the lyrics. And you're bringing me shit right now. Over 24, including children, injured after Boeing 777 dumps fuel on elementary school outside Los Angeles. You have got to be kidding me. This is chemtrails, like, this is not even chemtrails at this point. It's chem dump. It's like, alright, we're on top of the elementary school, drop the fuel. This is exactly what they've been doing. My God. Thankfully, no one is dead. Patient count updated to 17 children, 9 adults. It appears that it's an emergency procedure when a plane lifts up and has an emergency need to come back and land. It put too much, there's too much gas in the plane and it needs to drop some of the gas because or else it's too heavy to land properly. And so this plane was filmed. It's very hard to see, I believe, on the... I don't think we see exactly where is the fuel falling. Just dropping fuel. On the elementary school. Let's try to see it again. See, the guy is trying to film a liquid falling. And it falls on the elementary school, and now we got 17 children. It's a flight that was scheduled toward Shanghai, but it happened in Los Angeles. 17 children and 9 adults intoxicated on plain fuel. Hopefully they are doing good, and hopefully they were brought to the hospital in time. America hates Hollywood, says the Gateway Pundit. Poll finds Tinseltown less trustworthy than government, Wall Street, and Trump. Although actors and actresses garner endless media coverage and spend a lot of time telling all of us how they feel about President Trump, Americans don't trust them. According to a new poll released Tuesday by Morning Consult, just 4% of Americans trust Hollywood. That's lower than the number that trusts Wall Street and the US government, which is 5% for Wall Street and 7% for the US government. The news media comes in at a dismal 8%. The nationwide survey found that the most trusted brands in America are the United States Postal Service, Amazon, Google, PayPal, the Weather Channel, Chick-fil-A, Hershey, UPS, Cheerios, and M&M's. It is, however, a contest of mediocrity, as no brands were found to be particularly trustworthy, with these 10 brands garnering stamps of approval from just 34 to 42% of American. Lots of hate and lots of dissatisfaction by the crowds in the US with their company, with their representatives. That, gentlemen, is the situation. Alright, I think we're going to be ending for tonight. If you want, you can all go watch the Democratic debate. When and where can we watch it? The debate will kick off at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, so in 54 minutes from now. It's being held at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa. The debate will air live on CNN and can also be streamed through the network's websites or its apps. So go on CNN if you want to watch the debate tonight. It may become a catfight. It may become a dumping ground on Bernie Sanders, where people start attacking Bernie Sanders because he's getting more and more at the top. This might be interesting, or it might be also a Boer fest. Much love, everyone. And Sunstate says Nick's channel on D-Live. Alright, there may be Nick's channel also covering this. Watch live on D-Live with Nick Fuentes. Sure, go for it. Leave me alone. You see, on the regular chat, finally someone gives me good lyrics, straight from Wu-Tang. I bomb atomically Socrates' philosophies and hypotheses can define how I be dropping these mockeries, lyrically perform armed robbery, flee with lottery, possibly they spotted me. Now that's good.